I've been wanting to watch this video for like a day. Yeah, it's been like a day, but I wanted to watch this, but I wanted to watch it on camera. And basically, this dude is like a liberal. Look at him. He manifesting. I'm just kidding. I'm playing, but not sorry, but he's basically trying to figure out why Donald Trump won. And he's probably gonna be upset. And I think it's gonna be funny to react to. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's probably gonna be funny, but I definitely want to see his reasons. But let's see what he has to say. Oh, now he tweaking. Hold on, let me mute.
All right, not a lot of fun and games today. We're going to jump right in. I did a live the day after the election where Donald Trump became only the second president in American history to win a non-consecutive term by convincingly beating Kamala Harris, and emotions were high, limited information was available. But based on what I had seen and what I had been hearing at that time, I made the proclamation in this live that the core reason Kamala Harris lost her bid for presidency of the United States was misogyny and racism. I based this not just...
I should have paused before he said it because I knew he was going to say those exact things. I already know we're in for a good video. I'm probably not going to watch this whole video. It's pretty long. But like, bro... so many, like, I consider this guy super liberal, right? He's a super Saiyan 1 liberal. These people, they can't just view reality normally. They have to just, everything has to be about identity. Oh, it's because she's a woman. It's because she's black or whatever she is. I don't know, Indian. But it's like, no, that's actually not why. Like, the fact that that's what he said, it's like, oh my gosh, like, we're in for something good because you're already starting from like just a crazy foundation. But let's see.
Just on my general beliefs on the pervasiveness of sexism and racism in this country, but on the fact that at the time, the early data indicated that there was a huge decrease in voter turnout for her specifically with rural and suburban white men. Many folks, including more moderate leftists and liberals, agreed with this take, but also disagreed with the take. Others that I would call my peers politically, and some even further left than I, felt like this take was erroneous and in some ways let the Democrats off the hook for their many mistakes during this election cycle. Or like their liberals, ironically, they didn't like the finger being pointed at white people when there's black men, Latino men, and Palestinians to take the blame. I found both of these responses frustrating as neither really aligned with how I saw the whole situation, but at the time I didn't have enough data and I hadn't talked to enough people to feel too confident in my own take. But now, some weeks later, as most of the details and info are near final, along with being able to observe and process a lot of other people's opinions in the aftermath, I want to return to this opinion with a little more data. That's what we'll be doing in this video, using a mostly data-driven approach to explain why Kamala Harris lost, or better yet, why Donald Trump won, and what lessons could and should be learned from this election. I want to first make a few things clear.
Before we keep going, hey, y'all rock with Trump? Y'all rock with Trump? I rock with Trump, bro. I remember just posting pro-Trump stuff on my Instagram, and bro, people get so mad. And so it's one of those it's vindicating. When our boy got in, it's just vindicating. But let me know if you like Trump, guys. Let me know if you like Trump. But let's keep going.
Here in the swing state of Georgia, where I live, I voted for Kamala Harris. I didn't do this out of an alignment to the politics that Kamala represented or ran on, especially in the latter part of her campaign. I didn't do this with the mythical hope that she would be pushed left. That just doesn't really happen. I voted for Kamala Harris because of the two devils I was faced with. I preferred her, the devil I knew. To many, that is unsatisfactory. And to those of you who feel this way, it is what it is. To me,
And that's literally, I think, if anything, that's why she lost. That sentiment that he has right there, that's why she lost. Because people who are pro-Trump, like I just told you right there, I'm like, bro, I rock with Trump. That's my guy. That's the homie. That's gangy, But with Kamala, like, people literally only wanted her because she's not Trump. It's like, well, at least she's not Trump. Like, there's no real fervor. There's no real, like, we love her. We love what she stands for. Like, bro, people don't really rock with her. And it's the same with Biden. And honestly, some people don't think he won in 2020. Hey, look, we got to look into that. Stop the count. But yeah, no one really liked her. It wasn't any authentic. There wasn't authentic support for her. You know what I'm saying?
The world is already in a hellscape situation, and I personally find no solace in the individual victory that would have been a protest or third party vote, nor did I think that it would make a difference, and we'll look at why that's completely true later on. I am not of the mind that a Trump presidency and a Kamala Harris presidency would have been indiscernible from each other. On a grand scale, that's likely true, but at a micro level, at an interpersonal level, and at an immediate level, I think this is demonstrably false, and I don't think anyone who's serious can say that to be a fact across the board. Trump's 4 years as president before were harmful in numerous ways that were unique to him, including his handling of a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, which was made worse by his incompetence. But I digress. I'm only bringing this up because I also don't want this video to be mistaken as a defense for Kamala Harris or the Democrats. And it's really frustrating that our political discourse on the left has been so atomized and just made into content garbage that people who take nuanced look at these complex issues end up having to be in one camp or another. Like, I'm literally in the moment have done this take like 10 times because I'm trying to find the words to say how frustrating it is to want to have a nuanced conversation around electoralism when there's people that if you don't support Kamala Harris, they don't want to hear anything you want to say, even though there's obvious reasons to not support Kamala Harris. And people that don't support Kamala Harris feel like there's no logical or moral reason to vote for her regardless, as if anything in our political reality is that black and white. But it is what it is. I feel like it's important.
I feel like that's especially a thing with liberals. Like, I know there's like definitely like Trump's like super Trump supporters, or like if you say anything negative about him, they'll be like, yo, you're tweaking. But like, nah, like if you even just show any sort of like, I don't know, on the liberal side, yo, they literally think you're a secret Trump supporter. Like, they hate that stuff. And so like, yeah, that's why he's low-key like kind of scared just to even be real. You know what I'm saying? As a liberal, you know, he's not faking it. He's really a liberal. But even just having some sort of criticism, he's scared to do it. You know, which shows you how bad the liberal people are currently. That's why a lot of people became conservative. You know, you look at Elon Musk, RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, even Anna Kasparian or whatever. Like, a lot of people are distancing themselves from that liberal stuff because it's just like, it's too toxic, it's too weird, y'all are just doing too much, you know? But let's keep going. We're not going to watch this whole thing. Just keep watching. All right, guys, come on now.
Important to continue challenging my more liberal and moderate audience to dispose of the belief that Democrats are on our side. At best, they hold us hostage and force us to be complicit in their failings and atrocities by holding the knife to our throat that is the Republican Party. But I also think the grandstanding and finger wagging, often by people who are least affected by the threat that is the Republican Party, is just as ridiculous, especially when that ideology veers into, I'll just call it magical thinking at this point. But for those who still don't understand why the Democrats are bad, I'll link some other videos that break down their failings in the description. With that out of the way, let's get to it. As of writing, with 99% of the vote in nationwide, Kamala Harris has 73,879,941 votes, and Trump has 76,528,802 votes. This ranks second and fourth all time in popular votes for president. And this is with 90 million eligible voters deciding to stay home, which, believe it or not, is typical for non-voters. Usually voter turnout is around 60 to 65%. However, one important detail that we'll come back to a few times is that in 2020, Joe Biden set the record for popular votes with 81 million votes. The important fact.
Nah. And people really believe that. Like, I'm sorry. Just no, bro. That's all I'm finna say. No, there's just no way people actually believe that. Like, we love you, Biden. Like, you've never heard anyone say that ever. 81 million is unbelievable, but yeah, some of y'all believe that, but that's cool. But I'm weird for questioning, you know. Let's keep going.
To point out here is that Kamala Harris got around 7 million votes less than Joe Biden did back in 2020 nationwide. Now, you might immediately look at that and say this is because Kamala ran a bad campaign and because she campaigned on the wrong things that her base and regular people did not care about. Or you may immediately look and say that Kamala is a victim of sexism and racism because the same people that voted for Biden whose campaign was exactly like hers did not vote for her. And I think when you're looking at it at a national level, it's hard to be definitive because we're talking about all 50 states, many with complex dynamics of how voting plays out. There's reasons to think that Kamala failed to inspire nationwide with a campaign that started late, where American people didn't get to choose her, and her campaign was not overly detailed on policy. And the stuff that was emphasized showed her to be a centrist and a moderate, which much of the base might not have been into. I would argue that much of her rhetoric at the Democratic National Convention in August was more suited for a moderate Republican than a Democrat. She talked about securing borders, having a strong military. She avoided addressing identity politics. She campaigned with Liz Cheney. One of her biggest things she would talk about was how she was supported by the Republican establishment, and most alarmingly, she refused to engage with any talk of ending the United States' role in the ongoing genocide in Palestine. In the aftermath of her loss, many pundits and insiders have came out to make accusations that her campaign wasn't very good and the groundwork strategy was flawed. Some point out that the way she got the nomination was problematic to begin with. There's a whole lot of things to criticize about Kamala's strategy before you even begin to consider how this strategy was either informed by or was structured to deal with the fact that she was a Black woman. Since the election, I've talked to a lot of Black women, and one thing that's been said to me multiple times is that as a Black woman in these types of spaces, it doesn't matter what you say or do or what you say you're going to do, you will always be received as woke and emotional and inherently incompetent and all these things. And one could argue that the conservatism of her campaign was an effort to counteract that natural narrative, a narrative that if you look at exit polls, she definitely seemed to stick to her despite her flawed campaign. And I'm not saying that to say that her campaign was good. I'm just saying it helps explain one of the reasons why it was the way it was. However, this doesn't seem to matter when you look at the data. When you zoom in from the national level and just look at the 7 key swing states that really decided this election, you begin to really get some answers. For those unaware or outside the US, our presidential elections are some bullshit low key. The country has 50 states, right? And each state is worth a certain amount of points. If you win that state by getting the most votes in that state, you get all 20 points. Even if you only got 51% of the vote, you still get all 20 points. What this ends up doing is making it so 5 to 10 states that are up for grabs really control the entire election. And that's because most states in America consistently vote in a very specific way. Some states like Minnesota, for example, haven't voted for a Republican for president since 1968. States like Texas, on the other hand, haven't voted for a Democrat since 1972. This means that any analysis of the election that doesn't hyper-focus on what happened in those states isn't necessarily the greatest analysis, because in those states is where the voting population has and feels the most responsibility. This is where campaigns spend the most money, and this is where the campaign's successes or failures are really reflected and where data and feedback is most valuable. So that's where I'm going to focus most of my analysis on. And when you focus the analysis on the 7 battleground states, you start to see some really interesting features. In 2024, there were 7 battleground states: North Carolina, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, and Wisconsin. Kamala Harris lost all of them. However, the narrative that I presented a second ago about her flawed campaign, that voters stayed home because she ran too far to the right and didn't support Palestine, that she didn't run on any policies, etc., that doesn't really hold up here, because in 4 of the 7 swing states, Wisconsin, Georgia, North Carolina, and Nevada, Kamala Harris actually outdid Joe Biden in 2020. Now, it's from small numbers. It's not like she outdid him by a whole lot. But considering that Joe Biden had 7 million more votes nationwide, the fact that Kamala Harris kept up with him in these 4 battleground states indicates that she wasn't doing nearly as bad as people are trying to say she was. And in the 3 states where she didn't outdo him, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Arizona, she got within around 70,000 votes or less. So he didn't blow her out there either. Now, you may still feel that Kamala's campaign was bad because you don't like her politics or tactics on a specific personal level. And I would agree with all of those opinions. However, that doesn't mean her campaign was ineffective. The numbers say that it was. The difference is in Trump and some of the specific voter bases that he was able to pull in those same states, as well as specific voters that did not show up for Harris that showed up for Biden. While all the criticisms that you probably have of Harris and her campaign are true, I still think the results are more consistent with this country's deep-rooted misogyny and racism. I know people don't like that, So let me address some of the common arguments that I've seen against this take. So one of the main things I've seen is that Kamala lost because of abstainers and third-party voters, most of which who had the genocide in Palestine as a deal breaker. All that said, very little data points to those people having a significant effect. The most prominent third-party candidate left to Kamala who did not support the genocide was Jill Stein. And
Yeah, before he keeps going, like, nah, like, I see people that I know, and like I'll see the occasional, like, it'll be people on like Twitter or whatever, like, but it's like, dude, that's not real. Like, it's like, it's because she has to do something for Palestine. Like, I'm telling you, I'm trying to tell you, like, if you're one of those people, like, I'm glad you really care about something. And you might be in a cult, really. That low key, like, that Palestine, that free Palestine stuff, that low key look like a cult sometimes. But I'm glad you care about something. But I'm trying to tell you, like, nobody cares. Like, well, like, in the grand scheme of things, like, for America, like, Palestine, Israel, like, on the list of things that people care about regarding this presidential election, like, bro, that's very low. And I know you believe it's a problem, and it is bad. And, like, no one likes genocide or whatever you want to call it. But no one really cares about it. Like, that's the sad truth. I know. Like, I'm just being honest with you. And you're probably like, I know. And it's so messed up. But in reality, like, dude, nobody cares. People care about inflation. People care about, the economy and jobs. People care more about that weird LGBT stuff. Like, don't put that on my kids. Don't do that to my kids now. Like, people care more about that than that free Palestine stuff. Like, bro, just really talk to people. Just talk to people, and I guarantee you'd be surprised. But yeah, that was a bad thing. Like, you wanted her to be like super, like, Palestine. Like, you wanted her to really do something. But I'm telling you, it wouldn't have made a difference. It wouldn't have made a difference. But let's keep going though.
And in no swing state did Stein get even a full 1% of the vote. In Wisconsin and Georgia, she didn't even come in third. I know some truly principled leftists actually voted for Donald. In Wisconsin and Georgia,
how'd she lose? Hold on, you can't see it. She lost to RFK. She lost to RFK Jr. Like, dude, I thought he stepped down. Like, yo, that's humiliation. She lost to someone who wasn't even running. That's crazy.
Didn't even come in third. I know some truly principled leftists actually voted for Donald Trump in protests, which, okay. But I seriously doubt that was enough to really make the difference here to put the loss on Stein and protest voters. You could argue that more principled anti-genocide voters just stayed home, but that would clash with the aforementioned fact that turnout was up in swing states. Stein did her best in Michigan, where there is a large Muslim population, where there was also a well-organized effort against the Harris campaign because of her response to the genocide. But even in Michigan, if you add all of Stein's votes to Kamala's, she would still lose. This is important to point out for a few reasons, but for the moment, I really wanted to sink in with liberals and moderates who have went full mask off online with their vitriol towards the people of Palestine and the anti-genocide movement. In the days and weeks after the election, many on social media pointed at Palestinians and their supporters as the cause to Harris's loss, and it was gross and abhorrent to witness. People posted videos of them going to Starbucks, which, by the way, Starbucks was never actually involved in any boycott related to Palestine. That's just a significant marker of how uninformed a lot of us are online, myself included. But regardless of whether or not Starbucks was a part of the anti-Palestine movement, the fact that people were going there explicitly to spite Palestinians, that shit is whack. That shit is fucked up. All you should be ashamed of yourselves. People argued, well, these folks are just angry and they should be allowed to vent their anger and express their emotions without being judged. And sure, maybe, but in that regard, where is that same empathy for Palestinians who are actively being bombed right now? Of all the things that came out of the election, this was the most disappointing to me because I genuinely expected better. And in some situations, I don't know why I did. But I'll come back to that.
No, but genuine question, because there's been so many genocides and so many like horrific things that happen all over the world. I never understood why this was the one. Like, this is the thing that people still talk about. Like, it's been a year, right? It's been like over a year since October 5th or 6th. I don't even know what day. But like, I'm genuinely curious. Like, why are people still concerned about it? Like, if you're not Muslim or whatever, or Palestinian or whatever, like, I'm genuinely I'm curious. Like, I want to know, like, if you can put it in the comments. Why are people so concerned about this tragedy over like a bunch of other ones? Like, what is it? Because for me, my only explanation is that, like, I remember like during I was about to say January 6th, October 5th or 6th, whenever that was. Um, there was a lot of videos and stuff that came out during that time of like you could literally see a kid just burned, just a burnt up kid, just like you could see the real visceral effects of what was going on. And so I think there's like a strong emotional response that people had. Like you really never saw that for other things, you know. So I think that might be why. But I remember, yeah, people would repost stuff of like just a kid getting killed, like just some messed up stuff. Like I don't know, but I never understood because even to this day, yeah, people still really care about that. Which I'm not saying is bad. Like it's good to care about things or whatever, but usually people stop caring. Like y'all, a lot of y'all took the BLM out your bio. A lot of y'all changed your profile picture away from the black square. You know what I'm saying? And I don't support BLM, but I'm just saying like y'all cared for a moment and then you stopped. So that's why I'm surprised they haven't stopped. If that makes sense. But let me know why in the comments.
This. Another thing that people point out is that certain progressive ballot measures won in states that Kamala lost. For example, in Arizona and Nevada, they established a state right to abortion. This even won in the deep red state of Missouri. And in these particular situations, progressive ballot measures won big time, sometimes getting more votes than Trump and Harris in a particular state. So this would be a good argument against the misogyny and racism issue if you don't actually understand the difference between progressive politics and progressive policies. Many people will point out that progressive policies like universal health care, gun control, abortion, all tend to be popular issues that most of the nation agrees upon. The problem there is how these issues are seen, if they're connected to or in any way can be seen as supporting of Black people, people who are seen as undeserving. Whenever an issue is connected to Black people in this country, white people will vote against that issue essentially out of spite. Right now, they're trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act, which is known to white people, a specific type of white people, as Obamacare. These are people that will literally lose their health care if Obamacare is repealed. But because it has the name Obama on it, they do not care, or they don't care enough to actually know what will happen to them. And we've seen this historically in America. The easiest example comes from the history of programs such as the New Deal or the GI Bill. Both of these programs provided massive subsidies, social welfare, and handouts to predominantly white people across the country, enabling the largest growth of the middle class in modern history, but only for white people, as both these programs were greatly impossible to access for African Americans. And when people started even hinting at the idea that African Americans should start to benefit from these programs, public opinion on these programs changed. People started looking at them as welfare and handouts to the undeserving. And all of these programs saw drastic cuts in subsequent years. White Americans were fine with cutting off their own well-being if it meant that Black Americans were cut off too. There's an old saying that a white man will shit in his own pants just to make a Black man smell it. Moving on. Split ticket wins for Democrats in Senate and governorship seats don't prove anything regarding Kamala Harris's candidacy and campaign. One of the more frustrating arguments I've encountered is people saying that you can't call it racism or sexism because Ilhan Omar won her election in Michigan, or these two other Black women won in Maryland and Delaware. Further, Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, and North Carolina had Senate or gubernatorial victories for Democrats, but those states did not go for Kamala Harris. How can you call it racism and sexism when other Black women and other Democrats were supported in situations where Kamala was not? Again, this sounds like a sound argument until you go back to look at the data of what actually happened. The first one is easy. Ilhan Omar is a House representative from Minnesota's 5th District, a deep blue district in a state that, again, hasn't voted for a Republican for president since 1968, meaning that Kamala still won it in 2024. You can't compare Ilhan to Kamala because once Ilhan Omar won her primary, her re-election was basically a formality. There was already a world of support for her against any Republican opponent. She won with less than 300,000 votes. There's no comparing these two races on scale alone, let alone the fact that that was an easy mode win for both of them. The same can be said for the Black women that ran as Democrats in Delaware and Maryland. In any situation where you're in a deep blue state, just like I explained with the Electoral College a second ago, you pretty much know who's always going to be in power in that state based off that population. Of Black people elected as senators in the United States, historically, the only Democrat to win in a non-deep blue state is Raphael Warnock here in Georgia. And that's partially because he's here in Georgia. Things are changing here. The rest are either Black Republicans or winning in states like Illinois, New Jersey, California, etc. And again, neither of these Black women, Lisa Blunt,
hold on. He just swept past that. He's like, the rest are black Republicans or that. It's like, I think literally that's why. Like, he just said it right there. It's like the reason why, or why she didn't win is because she's saying things that a lot of people don't support. But like it's not that, like, it's not racism. Like, if we flip it and Donald Trump was a black Indian woman, you feel me? And Kamala was I don't know, what is it, white dude, whatever. Like, people still would have voted for Trump, right? I don't know how I did the analogy, but I'm saying if you swap the race and the gender or whatever, it wouldn't have made a difference because people align with what Trump says and what he does rather than Kamala. You know what I'm saying? It has nothing to do with the race or gender. And that's why there's black Republicans that can win. If it was truly racist, it wouldn't matter if they're Republican or Democratic, they would lose. I don't know if that made sense. I'm tweaking right now. I don't know if that made sense, but let's keep going.
Rochester in Maryland or Angela Also Brooks in Delaware won their seats in non-deep blue states. Not to take anything away from those sisters, it's just not the same level of difficulty or scrutiny that Harris faced as president. So what about Tommy Baldwin in Wisconsin or Jackie Rosa in Nevada, two swing states that were victories for Democrats? Surely this indicates something uniquely bad about Kamala and her campaign strategy, but again, not from the data, from the way I see it. In both of those states, Kamala Harris got more votes than the senatorial candidates. She even got more votes in Michigan than Erica Slotson, who won a Senate seat there, where she had the most resistance from the left and from Muslim protesters. She did get literally a few hundred votes less than Tommy Baldwin in Wisconsin, and it does look like she won't get more votes than Ruben Gallo in Arizona, who seems like he's going to win that seat. And she also didn't beat the incumbent Democratic governor of North Carolina, but there's some very significant reasons why that was always going to be a blowout win for the Dems there. But overall, in these other high stakes elections, it doesn't point to a unique rejection of Kamala by her voter base for any reason that would align with some of the criticism I mentioned earlier. In fact, almost all of those candidates ran with the same type of policies that Kamala did. Overall, she did great in the swing states. And had she just won the states where she did outdo Joe Biden, she would be the president right now. But she didn't, because Donald Trump significantly outdid his own performance from 4 years ago. And once we get into those numbers, it forces us to face some really hard realities. So let's return to those Senate races in Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, and Arizona, and especially Pennsylvania, because they also tell us some other things once you look at the numbers. The voter results in these races, to me, point to the most important detail about what really happened in this election. Again, Kamala lost all of these states, but outside of Pennsylvania and Arizona, she outdid Biden's performance. Further, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, and Arizona were Senate wins for Democrats. This means that not only did Trump win these states, not only did he outdo Biden's numbers in most of them in 2020, but he also outdid his own Republican running mates in these same states, because Trump would win the state, but Democrats would win the Senate. And the gaps here are pretty significant margins. As of writing, in Wisconsin, Trump got 1,697,769 votes and won the state. The Republican senatorial candidate got 1,641,181 votes, a significant but not so wide margin akin to how Kamala did in similar situations. In Michigan, Trump got 2,814,316 votes. The Republican candidate got 2,691,621 votes, a pretty significant gap. In Arizona, Trump got 1,764,862 votes. The Republican candidate got 1,591,318 votes. Again, another significant gap. In Nevada, Trump got 751,205 votes. The Republican candidate there got 677,046 votes, a significant gap considering the size of the state. And in Pennsylvania, the one place where a Republican actually won their race on a split ticket, Trump got 3,538,989 votes, and the Republican senatorial candidate got 3,395,274 votes. Again, a large.
I had to come out for Trump. I had to show out for Trump, and really, it's probably because people thought it was rigged last time, and so the whole thing was like too big to rig. Like, everyone had to show up. Like, the Amish pulled up. The Avengers pulled up, you know what I'm saying? Like, people pulled up, like, people had to pull up because we thought y'all cheated last time. So that's probably why, you know. But let's hear his interpretation.
Large gap in a state where the Republican actually won. This pattern is replete nationwide with Trump in solid red states. There were millions of people nationwide that went into a voting booth on election day with no interest in voting for any other candidate on their ballot other than Donald Trump. They checked one box and then turned their ballot in. Now, this isn't something that never happens. Federal elections always have higher turnout, but it's significant to see the scale at which the nation, or more explicitly, people in these swing states, showed up for the old racist, adulterous, treasonous, rapist felon, as opposed to the black woman district attorney who branded herself as a cop. So who are these people?
Come on, let's be real now. Like, let's be real, bro. But she's so holy. She's so holy and he's evil. Like, dude, come on, bro. I'm not saying Trump is holy. I'm not saying, you know what I'm saying? Trump is obviously flawed, but like the way you're framing it, like, she's so awesome and qualified and she's never done anything wrong. And Trump, well, he's literally evil. He's Hitler. It's like, dude, come on, dude. That's cringe, dude. That's why people don't, you know what I'm saying? Let me just mute.
You already know. Like, why? Well, I shouldn't have to make this video. I shouldn't have to make this video. The data I've seen indicates that there are white men in the suburbs and rural areas. I even had Nicholas Nameless help me out by doing a spreadsheet of all the counties in these swing states just to make sure this was true. NBC's exit polls also show that among white voters in key states, Kamala lost marginally suburban voters and significantly rural voters. These are almost categorically white voters, which correlates to her vote numbers amongst whites. In those key battleground states, she only got 37% of white men and 45% of white women. When you look at the proportion of the vote she got in those areas compared to Biden, they shrink in almost every situation, which meant that Trump got to run up the score, which meant that even though she got close in many of those states, she couldn't get over the hump. There's so much talk about, how Trump gained with Latino voters, including Latino men. And there was a ton still of stupid and erroneous talk about Kamala losing black men, which is frustrating because I've been saying how that's bullshit for years now. And anyone who understands politics knows that that wasn't going to happen. If there's one silver lining to the failure of this election, is that it might finally put to rest that talking point among a lot of people, specifically black women. In an interesting turn of events, Asian women actually voted more for Trump than Kamala, which is not true for Asian men. I'll let you come up with your own conclusions there, or maybe don't bother. Don't bother to even bother the Asian women or the Latino men or the black men. Do not waste your time. Because at the end of the day, white people make up 75% of America's electorate. And no Democratic candidate has won the white vote since Lyndon B. Johnson in 1968. The Democratic presidents that have won since then have won with a strong showing amongst whites and an even stronger showing amongst minorities. That is how they win the election. It's never the will of the white people of this country to allow a Democrat to be president. Not in.
So then I think it's settled then. People have conservative values. That's literally it. People have conservative values, and so they vote in favor of those values. And sometimes you have these rare people where it's like, okay, let's give him a chance. Let's give him a chance. To the point where you elected a black dude. I mean, he's white too, right? He's white, right? Obama's white. He's mixed, right? But it's like, dude, people have conservative values, and so that's what they choose. And when you see this Kamala, who was really like, bro, she looked like the most liberal. She's saying we gonna give illegal immigrants transgender surgeries, and we're gonna pay for it using taxpayer dollars. Like, that's what type of Super Saiyan 3 Ultra Instinct liberal? Like, this is unbelievable. Like, and so it's like when we see something that goes so far against what we would typically support, it's like, yeah, I'm not going. Like, and it's so bad. It's like, yeah, the Amish was gonna pull up. Yeah, the Asian dudes are gonna pull. You know what I'm saying? Everyone's gonna pull up to make sure that whatever that is, that doesn't happen. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's why it has nothing to do with race, bro. I mean, for sure, like, yeah, I'm sure there's some people who are genuinely so racist. It's like they could have been a Democrat, but it's like, oh, I'm not voting for her. Ew. But it's like, in reality, it's more so policies and what they like, you know what I'm saying? It's more so policies and like what they plan on doing with the country. And people just didn't like Kamala's vision. But we're almost done here. This is a long video, bro. I'm so sorry, guys.
In the last almost 60 years. I don't understand how what I'm saying here is controversial. If you are trying to understand the political reality of the United States of America, then all you're really doing is trying to understand the politics of what motivates white people to vote and be politically active. And I can only guess as to why a large portion of 76 million people who are white, voted for Donald Trump. But more significantly, why in those swing states that won him the election, where he got more votes than his Republican counterparts by a wide margin from people who are not politically engaged, I can only assume that they felt something specific for Donald Trump that they didn't feel for Kamala Harris. And considering that this is a president who accused Haitian immigrants of eating people's pets and is threatening to use the American military on American soil to contribute to mass deportation, I don't know what motivated the motherfucker at all.
Oh, because they're racist, dude. But yeah, nah, that's cringe, dude. We're ending it right there, bro. We're ending it right there. It's cringe. The reason why they pulled up with Trump, and the reason why Trump has so much support that you've never seen with any other politician really ever in American history. Well, I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there in the George Washington days, you know what I'm saying? But the reason why is because he seems real. Like, he's authentic. He's not like anyone else. You know what I'm saying? He's literally real. Like, people say he's not presidential, the way he behaves, but that's why people resonate with him, because he's real. That's literally why. Like, you're trying to put it into this whole racial category, like, and you're like, well, according to the data, that's not what's up. It's like, that's the problem with data. Like even the one dude, I think his name was like Alan Lickman, he had like the keys, and he's like, he predicted a majority of the past presidential elections, but he got this one wrong, you know, because even if the data that you have and these methods you have, they might be real data, you know, the keys might have been true, but the way you analyze things, the way you view the world, that's gonna affect how you interpret the data. That's gonna affect how you interpret these keys. And so he views everything in like a liberal, this race. Like, you the way you interpret things is so incorrect, because you think everything is race, everything is misogyny. That's just not the case, bro. And I don't know what it's gonna take for him to realize that. But don't get me wrong, yeah, there's definitely racism and stuff, or I guess. But dude, no, like, Trump is just different. That's literally why people, like, he's real. Like, he says something real, and people are like, oh wow, like, we didn't think anyone would say that, you know. But hey, look, man, a lot of people think this. In fact, before we end the video, if you're still watching, I got a bonus clip. I'm just kidding. But nah, I do have a bonus clip. But thanks for watching. I'm going to reward you with this clip, which shows you that basically liberals are just, it's delusion. It's delusion. But let's watch. All right. This is the last clip. If you're still watching, you're going to enjoy this. Thank you for watching this long. Like, what the heck? You're different, bro. W attention span. Your attention span is healing. Nature is healing. I'm just kidding. Let me be serious. But so basically this video, can you see the title? It was made by this dude Barely Informed with Elad, interviewing Kamala Harris supporters. This was at a Kamala rally, and this guy, he's such a good interviewer, because I'm pretty sure he's conservative, but he was managing to ask liberals questions, because liberals, they hate answering questions from the press. Unless you're also a liberal, they hate answering you, right? They don't like to be challenged or anything. But he managed to ask him this question. He's like, why do you think people are so supportive of Trump? And let's see what all these people say. Why do people support Trump? Like, why do they believe it, right? Let's see.
Disgusting about women.
Despite Trump's long history, this race is still extremely tight. Why do you think Trump resonates with so many Americans?
A lot of Americans are racist, and they don't want to move forward. But it's time to move forward.
Given that, in that vein,
there's one.
Essentially, yeah.
One last thing I wanted to hit on. This is still a very close election. Why do you think Donald Trump resonates with so many Americans?
Because America can be racist at times. Yeah.
In that vein, do you think they're ready for a black female president?
I think we are. Yeah.
Absolutely. Why do you think he still resonates with so many Americans?
Sadly, I think we have a lot of people in this country that align with some of his unfortunate beliefs and perceptions of the world, particularly racism and immigration, which is very sad. And I think the Kamala Harris campaign tries very hard to unify people, and that's not what they're about.
Okay. There's that. So, like, I think out of the 4 people he asked, like, 3 of them said that, oh, the reason why he's winning, or the reason why it's close, is because of racism. So that's just crazy. Like, that's really how a lot of people think. Or at least that's how these 3 people think, but it's a general sentiment that I've been seeing. But yeah, bro, that's all, bro. Thank you for watching. This is like kind of like just political. This isn't really religious. Usually I say something spiritual. Jesus. There you go. There you go. I'm just kidding. But nah, yeah, real life. Thank you, Jesus, guys. My videos have been doing pretty well. So I'm trying to be consistent. Yeah. So let me know what I should watch. Like, I don't even know what to watch. I be praying. I'm like, God, what do you want me to react to? But yeah. Nah. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Watch my other videos. Thanks. Bye.